Happy Halloween and all that stuff. Looks like you look like a guy named George Reba. What's your favorite all-time costume?
That I went as the
Favorite. Don't be picky on the show.
Well, I went as a clown.
Gil Leberton?
Well, I'm old enough. Probably somebody like Hopalong Cassidy.
Oh my God, that's not even a thing.
Google
Ziggy?
it. Google it.
I think probably this year's my favorite costume. I'm going to go as Uncle Buck this year, and I'm really excited.
Oh.
What about you, Richie?
Oh my God.
PressBox DFW live. That is George Reba,
Thank you very much.
longtime Channel 8 sports anchor. That is Gil Leberton. And if you can guess who I am, gentlemen, I'll give you the episode off. George Reba, who am I?
Guy from Kiss, but I forgot his name.
Guy from Kiss is correct, but too generic, Gil.
I thought you were a Phantom of the Opera for a
Well,
second.
that's ridiculous.
Is it Peter Criss?
That is wrong, too. Paul Stanley, I apologize to all your non-fans.
Well, you're scaring me.
Ta-da, it's just me. It's Paul Stanley from Kiss. Come on, you crazy kid.
Well, I had the band right.
All right, happy Halloween. It is episode 9 of season 3. John Henry, again, is busy with his horses out in Nowhereville. It is happy Halloween. Gil, there's a picture of your house. You're nice enough to show us that. Your yard needs a little bit
Nice
of work.
lawn.
But
Nice lawn, right.
Yeah, but the roof looks like it's in good
A
shape.
lot of pets, it looks like.
All right, sitting in for John Henry, of course, is George Reba, who I ran into up here at On Air Media last week, and I thought, the guy's got tails. We've been doing this for a long time. He's been doing it, I think, even longer than us. George Reba, let's catch up with you. First of all, start from the start. You're from Stonewall,
Texas.
That's
home
Texas Hill
home
country,
of Lyndon
right?
B. Johnson.
Is that right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, his ranch was right down the road from our house.
And how did you get up to the Metroplex?
Long story. I actually had a radio job in high school, a little town a little station called KNAF in Fredericksburg. They hired me as a junior in high school.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I did a little radio, and my brother was going to school at UTA at the time. I didn't know where I was going to go, and so he said, "Hey, why don't you come stay with me for a while?" And so I banged on some doors and got a radio job and stayed with him until I was able to find some roommates and stayed here.
I did not know you're a UTA grad.
I am a UTA
We're
grad.
UTA brothers.
All right.
Absolutely.
Really? Wow.
I was the editor of the Shorthorn in 1980.
I worked for the Shorthorn.
Did
Yeah,
you?
with
Gil, you can go home. We got a whole thing to catch up on. That's
I
amazing.
did.
All right.
Yeah, I worked for the Shorthorn. You know, I covered movie reviews for one semester, and that was a blast. I got to see more movies.
I'm sure you
was
did.
great.
That's
Every
kind
week.
of the gist of the job.
Yeah, can I come by and do a review on your movie? Sure, come on over.
And you and Gil ran into each other, I'm sure, throughout the years.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
So you're one of the few people, George Reba, that has worked with both Vern Lundquist.
Right, he hired me.
He hired you. Tell me that story. How you first met Vern.
We were sitting in Arlington Stadium in the press box one night, and a guy named Larry Sugarman was leaving to go to Peoria, Illinois. And so I was working at Channel 5 at the time. I was a night photographer, doing a little bit of sports on weekends for Ron Spain. You know, if you remember him or
Of
not.
course. Yeah, Ron Spain.
And so I was doing kind of part-time sports, mainly news. And I said, what are you doing with that slot? And he goes, why, are you interested? And I said, well, I could be. And so I went for an interview, but it was a half radio, half TV. It was half WFA radio in the morning.
Gotcha.
And half TV for about a year and a half or so until it became full-time TV.
Did you ever get to fill in for Vern on Bowling for Dollars?
No.
How great would that have been?
Oh, no, but he had some great stories about that, though.
Oh, I'm sure.
But at the time he left, because he used to do regional broadcasts for ABC. Do you remember that?
Yep.
And he was leaving a broadcast at College Station one time, and he pulled into a gas station. The guy was filling up his car, and the guy looks up and goes, You're that. He
You're
goes,
the guy.
Oh, he just watched the broadcast. Right? You're that Bowling for Dollars guy.
Nobody was bigger than Vern back in those days, right?
No, he was the king of the mountain, and he was a great guy too. Great to work for. Yeah, absolutely.
He's dead?
Oh no!
Yeah, he was a great guy. Rest in peace.
Well, he's retired from CBS, but he still does
Sorry,
golf.
Vern.
Still does 16. The whole
I know.
16.
Absolutely.
Right.
So Vern was a great guy and hired you,
Uh-huh.
and then they threw a big load of Hanson in your lap.
That's right. That was fun.
Was it? They got all these stories about Vern and Hanson. He was fun.
He was a little different, but
Give me your best Hanson story that you can tell. Actually, you can tell this because there's no FCC here. This is a
I don't
podcast.
even know where I'd to begin with Hanson. There's too many stories to tell about Dale.
But talented guy.
Oh, absolutely, and he.
Blowhard notwithstanding, talented guy.
Yeah, no, and he was first of all, he's easy to work for, and he's really a softie. He loves kids, and he really is easy to get along with. And he was really a stickler for facts and for get it right, and get the little details correct, and really a stickler for being totally accurate. And
It's kind of surprising. We've had him on the show and ask him.
absolutely.
You'll ask him one question, and 45 minutes later, we
Oh,
have to
yeah,
sign off.
well,
that was the whole show.
He knows how to express himself. Yes.
Who's done the great hiring at Channel 8 over the years? I mean, because what a great alumni.
That was Marty Haig, the news director.
that's right, Marty Haig.
Marty Haig,
Yep.
remember him?
Golly,
Yeah.
but I mean,
That's pretty strong, isn't
I
it?
got to work for Marty Haig.
When you guys have a Channel 8 reunion, it's like a who's who of sports
Oh, it
TV.
was awesome. I used to sit in those morning meetings because I was actually sports director for a while, and I'd sit in there and I'd hear all this stuff. I'd say, "All right, so Reba, what you got?" And well, I just got this, that, and that. And I go, "Okay, that's it."
Now, I didn't know this. Did you start at 5?
I started at 11.
Started at 11.
Yeah, but
back before it was CBS. Back when it was
back it was
KTVT.
independent. Yeah, back when
yeah.
I Love
Gaylord
Lucy was number.
station,
I Love Lucy was number 1 at 6 o'clock. No, it was.
Is that
Absolutely.
right?
Oh, absolutely. And we had a noon show and a 10 o'clock show. The 10 o'clock was only 15 minutes because they interrupted the movies. So,
Yeah. And were you the guy at 11?
No,
Or
it
who
was
the
a
guy?
couple of guys. We were all news guys. We just did news. Bob
Gotcha.
Boudreau and I can't remember who all I worked with over there.
I don't remember that. And about when you went to 5?
John Whitson was a news director over there, and he was
Okay.
on the air as well.
What about 5? Who was the guy?
It was Doug Vare. Do you remember Doug Vare?
Not
right
really.
after Boyd Matson left to go to
I remember
NBC.
that. Yeah, I remember
him?
that name. Well, these are
Boyd
names
Matson.
from the way
Boyd
from the
Matson
past.
just left right before I got there.
Yeah.
And then Doug Vare and Ron Spain, of course, was
Yeah.
a news sports director.
Absolutely.
And I got to work with Ron for a long time.
So these are back. You're talking about you started at 8 in 77, so you got here in 74. Started
I
working
moved
at
here
5
in
and 11.
68. I had to do
Moved
my
here in 68.
I had to go Air National Guard first to get my
okay.
my military duty taken
Gotcha.
care of. Yeah. So
see, that was a different time, Richie.
totally
No
different.
kidding. I didn't do my service was just said to go on
had the
Cooper
draft.
Street and go cruising before I got my job.
Yeah, so I had to do I graduated in high school. I went straight to did the 6 months of military duty, and then I moved to Arlington.
Wow.
I feel
Of
like
course, I had to do that for 6 years.
Yeah.
And some of my buddies got called up. Luckily, I wasn't, so I was lucky in that regard. So good old Vietnam was going on at that time.
Gil has stories. He's got a Vietnam story.
Got a Vietnam story?
yeah.
Oh gosh.
that was my Halloween outfit
was
that
your
I
worst
remember
outfit.
the most.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
What do you go as a sergeant?
No, I went as a spec for. But the question that everybody wants to know is, what did y'all do with Jerry Orr, and where is he buried?
He is in
Where'd y'all stash the body?
he is in Chicago, Illinois, and he moved there because at the time his mom was ill, and so he moved back. I can't remember what suburb in Chicago, but anyway, Chicago. He was on WGN for a while.
Was he really?
Yeah, and then he got crossways there, as I recall, or something. I can't remember exactly what happened. And then he was in sales and promotion and stuff. And I talked to him 4 or 5 years ago, right after I left Channel 8.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to him since. So
And he's still in broadcasting?
he wasn't the last time I talked
Okay.
to him. Was not. Yeah, was more in promotional end of it, marketing and stuff.
I feel like we need to get caught up too with another person that I know is a favorite of yours, because she's a favorite of mine, Susie Woodhams.
She lives in France.
Right.
She does live. That's right.
Right there by the border. Actually, I think her
Bordeaux.
husband.
She was living in Bordeaux for a while.
Yeah, I think
But I
so.
think
They have a
they live
place
in
in south of
Arcachon.
France. Yeah, Arcachon. That's their place, their beach house
Yeah,
that
they
go
live on the
to.
beach. Can you imagine?
Is that right?
We've
Good
we've
for her.
visited.
They live-
We've
Is that
actually
right?
visited. Yeah, we had lunch with her.
Susie
wow.
Williams was
Don.
like one of the first female sports writers, to make the transition to TV reporter.
She did a great job.
She did it locally. She didn't do it
Yes,
nationally,
yes.
but now it's like a natural progression.
Hanson.
Now actually, they skip the writing part and just go right to TV.
Hanson got credit for that, for bringing her on board, yeah, and helping her.
Susie has long been fluent in French. And in 1991, as the Winter Olympics neared in February of '92 in Albertville, France, she was working for the Times Herald,
Yep.
and she arranged calling up long distance. The idea was that her, Mickey Spagnola, who was
Sure.
also with the Times Herald, and myself were going to room together in a condo or whatever we thought in Albertville.
It's like Three's Company.
And in December, right, exactly. And in December of that year, on one dark Sunday, the Dallas Morning News bought the Times Herald and folded them the same day. And so Susie and Mickey were out of a job instantly. And Susie ended up negotiating on my behalf to still do the room. Turned out it wasn't a condo. I lived with a family for 3 weeks, but it was great. It was a great time. But Susie always had that language ability,
Yep.
and her and John, her eventual husband, have made it their home.
Good for
We
them.
still don't know what her husband does. We think he works for the CIA.
I'm
Very
not sure what it is.
mysterious.
He works for Les CIA.
But these are some of the great people. I mean, Susie picked up. She got a job in TV
Yep.
quickly.
She was
Hanson
good.
saw Marty saw the talent in her, and there's just been a long line of great people over the years. Really,
Yeah, Marty hired some great people, man. So many guys went to
Hanson
national
notwithstanding.
networks. Yeah,
Yeah,
went to
they
the
hired
national
Hanson.
network. Yeah, I mean, Hanson was over at Channel 4 and we came
Right.
over.
Was, that's
Yeah,
right.
Remember that?
Right.
So took a cab across town.
So why did you? Because I mean, and you'll attest to this. George Reba looks the same as he did 20 years ago.
Exactly.
I mean, you would look at him and go, "What time machine am I in?" Why did you retire?
If you're here missing. Well,
In
I was getting
2015,
old, man. I'm getting old.
No, you're not.
I'm 70 for crying out loud.
You're 70 years old.
I am.
That's unbelievable. So how many?
I
How
am.
many? So how many miles did you run today?
I just did 4.
Just 4.
only four.
We did,
All right,
we did 20 on Saturday,
Oh
by
my,
the way.
okay, 20. We're gonna get to your post broadcast career. George Reba joining us here on PressBox DFW Live. Let's talk about the highlights of your TV career. We'll get to
Okay.
your post career. You covered Landry's Cowboys.
I did, yeah. That was interesting.
I mean,
Yeah, meet
and
Tom
you
Brady.
covered Jimmy's Cowboys.
Every coach that the Cowboys have had, I've had a
Yeah. So just talk to us about. I mean, I'm sure you had one-on-ones with Landry on camera, off camera. What was that guy like? What was he like behind the off camera?
He was just Tom Landry. I mean, he was easy to talk to, easy to get along with, and very engaging. And I remember doing stories even after he left at his office and stuff. And he, showed me stuff around the office and stuff, and very engaging. I never had a problem with him at all. He was the old days of the old press conferences. All the 3 TV stations at that time it was 4, 5, and 8 were the 3 stations. 3 cameras, 1, 2, 3, and they would number 1 would start. They go to. And the questions, it was so funny. They were just rotate questions like that.
So it wasn't a group thing. It was
just 3
separate
cameras. Yeah, they'd finish
interviews.
their lunch and they'd go do the TV session. There were 3 cameras. That was it. And sometimes the reporter was there and sometimes not. And not that the camera guy would ask the questions, but he was so laid back. And then Ermal Allen would do his little chalk talk for him.
Wow. Can you imagine Belichick? Bill, we're going to do 4 separate interviews today with the same questions. Can you imagine Belichick in his hoodie? I don't think that would go over.
No way.
Well, he would do too. This was at the Twin 60s on Central.
Yes, it
Expressway,
was. Yeah,
right?
we'd all walk over from the offices.
And he would do TV first.
Yep.
And then
Correct.
y'all would have to clear the room
Yeah.
so that he could talk to
Actually,
the print media.
the writers, I think, was kind of a round session right after lunch. They would get their stuff there, as I recall, and they were not available on Monday. Nobody was available on Monday.
But I know it was separate.
Yeah. So then they
And
do
then
that.
Ermal would come in and give us
Yeah.
the scouting report.
That would be the
coming
last. That would
opponent.
be the last thing. Yeah. Yeah.
You realize
But,
how pampered you guys were at the time? I mean, you don't get anything like that.
No,
now.
you don't
No,
get anything.
nothing.
No.
But I mean, we went to Tom's house and did stuff at his house, and he was very, very, very accommodating.
Tom Landry, what you saw was what he was.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, there
absolutely.
was no 2 sides of the head coach.
Right.
Unlike, the current head coach.
Yes.
And unlike,
Or
he didn't
Jimmy,
feel it,
Yeah.
for
or
example.
Jimmy,
Sure.
or Switzer, You know, they all put on their coaching
Sure.
bit. They all did their coaching.
Tom was a good
shtick.
enough person to be transparent, I guess.
The questions weren't as sterilized the answers weren't as sterilized as they are today.
Right.
Yeah, it's not like he would fill up a notebook, but he still was. But he was the same guy.
And he would call on the Cincinnati Bengals and the
Cincinnati.
St.
Washington.
Louis, and the St.
Washington.
Louis Cardinals.
Because
I loved his show.
Because you never know when you're going to be surrounded by Redskins.
Oh, that was one of the
Remember that
greatest commercials,
Yeah,
American
the old
Express
American Express
commercial of all time.
Give us some Mavs tales. You covered. You probably were.
Yeah, I was there the day they-
probably at Moody Madness.
Oh, well, I was, as a
Okay,
matter of
there you
fact.
go.
Oh, was that awesome? That was
Yeah.
one of the best times. But I was there in 1980 when they had the press conference at the old train station.
Yep.
And to
Union
announce they
Station.
were getting a franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was interesting. That was really big. Yeah, Moody Madness was probably, gosh, that was probably the highlight of the playoff system at that time, wasn't it?
Oh, it
that
was
so
yeah,
good.
1984.
I was standing in the back. I didn't have a seat. I was because it was so small.
Yeah.
I was standing on a chair. You know where you came in for the floor right there.
Yep.
I'm standing on the chair in the back corner, watching the game the whole time practically, so I could see the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all have, especially us, we all have good old day syndrome about but Reunion Arena back in the mid to late 70s when the Mavericks were getting good.
It was good.
Sorry, in the mid 80s when they were getting good.
Right.
And then John McLeod and Mata kind of handed off to John McLeod. And he had Aguirre and Blackman and Derek Harper when they were pushing the 3-time defending champion Lakers to a game 6.
Before he dribbled.
That was as exciting as a sports fan as I've ever been. And they didn't even get to the finals.
Yeah.
But that place was so loud, it was so new, that it was just, you can't even describe to Mavericks fans now about how loud that place was.
Yeah, it was, and I think because Dallas had never had anything like that
Right.
before. That's the bottom line. And too bad he had to dribble out the time clock.
Why do you got to bring that up, Reba? We're not having you on again if you're going to be Debbie Downer.
Derek,
That's
too
hurtful.
soon.
Way too soon.
Derek,
How about in 1984? It's still too soon. All right, give us some Rangers tales. What about what was your highlight of covering the Rangers throughout the years? You covered a lot of great teams back in the 80s.
Oh my
and the
God!
70s.
Oh my God! I mean, she's chasing. I remember chasing Don Zimmerman down the dugout because he was going to get fired the next day, or working with Billy Martin. That was a trip. My goodness.
Billy Martin and Tom Landry kind of cut from the same cloth.
Wow, I don't even know where to begin with the Rangers. They used to go to Pompano Beach training camp.
That's
and
right, yeah.
Little hole in the wall place, and with oh my gosh, it was just a one room building. There was nothing there.
Right.
There was nothing in Pompano Beach. It was amazing.
They didn't exactly upgrade that much when they went to Port Charlotte either. You know,
They had more
that was
fields.
a cinder block. They had more fields.
They only had one
A
field. in
cinder
Pompano
block
Beach.
building. You know,
Yeah.
it looked like a bunker.
Gaylord Perry, messing around in the locker room. That guy was a clown.
Let's talk about that. Who's your? You've interviewed thousands of athletes
I guess.
over. We're talking 40 years in the local TV here,
yeah.
sports TV. Favorite person to ever interview, other than me and Gil.
I think you guys are at the top of the list.
Well, there's
man.
no doubt. But who got number 3?
Gosh, favorite interview?
Yes. Don't tell me you've never been asked this. You've never answered this.
No, I've never been asked this
Well,
before.
I'm flattered to stump you, but come on.
Golly, Bill Bates.
Bill Bates. Why are you laughing when you say that?
I don't. He was a good guy.
He's a great guy.
He's one of my
He's a good
favorite
interview.
guys.
All right,
He's one of my
biggest
favorite
a-hole you ever interviewed?
Oh, Albert Bell.
Yeah, the old Indian
We went in.
slugger.
Oh gosh.
Came
Tell
here
it.
for the
Tell it,
All-Star
Reba.
game.
We Arnold Payne, the photographer, and I.
Sure.
We were doing. They were in town. The Cleveland Indians were in town, and I said we have to go over and talk to Albert Bell because he's such a jackwagon, right?
So you wanted to talk to
Oh,
Jack
absolutely,
White.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
I said,
instigator in you. I got
so
you.
be sure you're rolling on this because he was sitting there playing cards. They do
Sure.
forehands or dominoes or something. I went, the camera's rolling. I said, "Hey, Albert, you got a second?" He goes,
Touched him?
"Get that blah 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 camera out of here." Thank you very much, Albert. Catch you later.
That's kind of what you wanted.
That's all I wanted. That's all I knew.
Wow. Didn't know you're a little instigator like that.
Well, I'm not normally, but it was just, he's such a jackwagon. That it was just,
You're exactly right. If
God.
you don't know, kids, you don't know who Albert Bell. If you think there's a-holes in today's game, just look up some Albert Bell interviews.
Yeah, I'm
and
trying to
you'll
think
see.
who else. I mean, the Stars are so easy to talk to.
Yeah.
The soccer teams were so easy to talk to.
Yeah.
Rangers. I guess there was some. I'm trying to think. Don Mattingly was a donkey when he came to town.
This is donkingly, Mattingly.
Yeah.
This may be hard too, but do you have a favorite story that you ever did? One that sticks out, or won you awards, or maybe it's just is close to your heart?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the ones I was saying is hard for me to talk about sometimes. The ones when you're sitting in an edit bay and you're cutting a story, and all of a sudden, it really hits you,
Sure.
And that's really a good story. And the who was a basketball coach at Duncanville that died?
Sandra Meadows.
Sandra Meadows. Stuff like that,
Yeah. I went to Duncanville High School,
Did
so
you
I know
really?
her really well.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
absolutely. While
When
we
she won
were-
those 3 straight state championships,
Yep.
and you get to know those people, and they leave. It's
Yeah.
really sad.
Do you have an archive of all your stories? I mean, in today's digital
Well,
age, it seems like
yeah,
it'd be,
I
but
started-
you're kind of old school. So
Toward
yeah.
the end, I started saving a lot of digital stuff, and when I left, I digitized. I had piles of tape around my desk.
You got-
I
yeah, you
I
got VHS
digitized
tapes everywhere.
A couple of hundred stories probably, and I saved them on a
Good for
hard
you.
drive. And some of those I'm putting on just my private YouTube channel that I just kind of keep copies of.
Gotcha.
So, but anyway, yeah, that's.
Most famous person that you ever interviewed? Globally famous.
Globally famous. How about the guy from Beverly Hillbillies?
Jed
Max
Clampett?
No, the Max.
Max Baer.
Come on.
Yeah,
Jethro,
that was a-
famous person you've ever interviewed.
No, I don't know. Let me think. Let's
Not the
see.
name I was expecting.
I would have given a lot of guesses.
How about from
Senator
outs-
John McCain was at Texas A&M. I interviewed
Yeah.
him.
All right.
That's what I'm thinking. Outside
Warmer.
the sports realm.
Well, I mean George Bush. I mean, he still
That's true.
He still calls me Jorge.
He does?
Yeah, we were in.
It's a term of endearment,
In
obviously.
'99, we were at the Nolan Ryan induction at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. He was the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, and he's still the governor at that time. So he was standing. We were walking by, and I said, "Oh, there's the governor over there. We better get a word with him, right?" Because remember, it was right after he was still
Absolutely.
one of the partners of the Texas Rangers and stuff. So I had this microphone and this long stick, and I kind of weasel it to the crowd. I said, "Hey, governor," I says, "you got a second?" He goes, "Jorge, for you anything."
He didn't hire you for his cabinet?
No, he didn't.
The department of Jorge might have been important to
So
his
I
national
guess, so I
security.
guess he might be the most famous one.
We might have this. We might have both talked to this same guy. Did you do the Dallas Grand Prix when it was
I
came
did.
through
I
town?
did. I did.
Did you talk to Paul Newman?
I did. Yes, as
See?
a matter of fact. Yes.
Better
Totally-
than Max Baer. Come on.
Paul Newman drove in that Dallas. He was a car owner.
People don't know that there was a Dallas Grand Prix. That was in the 80s, right?
No, that's Formula One in '84. Yeah.
Formula One through the downtown streets of Dallas,
I know.
Texas.
No,
it was Fair Park.
Fair Park, right.
Yeah. But still, it was so twisty and turny. It was
Yeah.
ridiculous. But I remember being totally intimidated.
By
Myself and David Cass Stevens, who was with the
Oh, yeah.
Morning News
Morning
at the
News
time,
columnist.
we wound our way there, and I'm pretty sure I remember George being there. And he was underneath a tent, underneath a canopy.
Paul Newman?
Yeah, and he was having a beer or something like that. He had finished for the day.
Was he having
And-
salad?
No, it
No?
was before
Wasn't working
that.
on his dressing yet?
And I remember you take one look at those, and those blue eyes
Sure.
came back at me, and I was like, how does this compare to acting? And I asked the
It's the most
dumbest
generic
ass questions you could think, and that's what I ended up writing about. And the desk, of course, did me no favors because the headline that they put on it was "Dumb Questions for Newman, Take One."
That's actually a good headline.
Yeah.
Oh, my wife Maggie was walking. We were in Carmel for some crazy reason one time, and walking. I think the dog came and messed with Maggie, and she goes, "Oh, that's okay. Pardon the dog." And she looks up as Paul Newman. She goes,
She did the gill.
The same. I did the gill.
she
Yeah.
did
It was
the
like,
gill. George Reba joining us here on PressBox DFW Live. Real quick, you got to tell the story, but you got to tell the amount. You went and saw Elvis Presley,
I did. In
What year?
1971. I think it was.
1971,
Yeah.
and you saw him at the old Memorial
I saw him
Auditorium,
right here. Right there.
which was
Downtown
King.
Dallas, which is the old
Yeah,
convention center.
the old
It's
convention center.
Yeah. That's where the Dallas Chaparrals used to
I used to
play.
watch the Dallas Chaparrals
Did you
there,
really?
ABA basketball. Yeah, my dad would take me there.
Oh, that's awesome.
But you're claiming you paid how much for a ticket in 1971?
$50 a ticket.
That just
Whoa.
seems
and I was sitting
Whoa.
all the way in the across the arena on the back side. So it wasn't like I was on the floor or something.
I mean, my dad has told me we grew up in a 1,100 square foot house in Duncan. He told me that our house payment was like $41.
Oh, God.
You did a house payment to go see Elvis.
I did.
Doesn't that, Gil, doesn't 50 seem like a lot for 1971?
Seems like an incredible amount
I guess it
for that
was,
time.
yeah. But I was had in my
you
mind.
were big money. You didn't care. You blew
No,
into
I
town.
just
with
always
big-
had in my mind, if Elvis ever comes within, whatever, does a concert and I can afford it, I'll try to afford it.
Spare no expense,
Spare no
even though it's
expense.
$50.
But we used to see when I was at radio station KFWD, I think it was. We had a studio out there where Channel 5 is now, out there by the old Greater Southwest Airport.
Okay.
And he used to land his plane out there, and we'd see him climbing out of his plane when he played in Fort Worth sometimes.
You have tales to tell, my friend. All right, in 2015, George Reba won the Dallas Press Club North Texas Legends Excellence in Journalism Award,
Okay, I remember
which was like, oh, that's kind of cool. The other winners include Brad Sham, Sam Blair, and Dan Jenkins. That's a pretty good Mount Rushmore of local media.
I was
That's pretty
hanging
cool.
out. I was hanging out with Dan Jenkins, and that was awesome. Yeah,
That's pretty
That
cool.
was pretty cool. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about what you're doing now, other than marathons. So you're training. You're 70 years old. You're training for what number marathon? The Rock, White Rock.
Dallas be 26, I think it is for Dallas.
26.
Yeah.
So how many marathons you ran in all?
It'd be I've run 33, so it'd be 34,
33.
something
Right.
like that. Yeah.
And you run 5 days a week still.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
And
And as long as the wheels keep going, I'm going to keep going.
Now, do you credit that with why you look 50 or just like you did when you were 30?
I have no idea.
What product do you use on your face to keep it so fresh?
I got nothing. Sunscreen.
You get an endorsement deal. You wanted to.
No.
But you're also dabbling in something else. You were up here last week, and I found this fascinating. We actually got a picture, Ziggy, of
Oh, the White
Look,
Rock.
I mean-
that's a picture I took at White Rock in December. As a matter of fact, I was out for a walk. I was taking the dog out for a walk.
that looks like a photograph, like kind of artsy photograph, right?
Yeah.
That's a George Reba one of one. Like, is it an oil painting?
It's got my name on the bottom there. Son of a gun.
Well, we
I'm
crossed it
left.
off. We're gonna sell it. Yeah, you're on there somewhere. What,
Yeah,
now,
it's
what
oil. It's oil. It's just I took I took 2 classes at Creative Arts Center of Dallas, which is
Okay.
over there in East Dallas by I-30 and Ferguson, and then I took another class from an artist named Nikki Gully. That was Dave Kramer was the artist there that taught that class, and then Nikki Gully, I took a class from her. She's actually got stuff on display in like Fredericksburg, a beach out in California, south of. I can't remember the town.
So is this
North-
something you
and
had
then
dabbled in
Kansas City.
earlier?
No,
or
I
just
just-
something you decided. I think I'll paint.
Well, I ran across a friend of ours that she showed me, hey, I just took this, painted this, and I went, wow, that looks like fun. And so, where'd you go? And she said, Creative Arts Center of Dallas. So I said, well, hell, I'm going to do that.
Gotcha.
And I just decided to. My sister has been an artist her whole life, and she's very good. She teaches art from time to time. And then my little brother, when he was alive, he was really, really good as well. But I never touched it until about 3-4 years ago.
I mean, I'm no art critic at all, but to me that was really good, and I put it on my Facebook. And there's people that want to buy that painting from.
Really?
You should put you have GeorgeReba.com, right?
I do, but I don't. It was more of a working.
I think we have some.
website when I was working at
We have
Chevrolet.
at least some pictures of. There's your website,
Yeah.
and there's some of your cool photos you've done through the years.
That-
You need to have.
I'll
I'm
pro-
giving you some website advice.
I'll
One
pro-
of your tabs needs to be paint for sale or paintings.
Okay.
And put those up there.
Okay.
Make a little side money.
Just say, buy my paintings.
Or say, buy my paintings. You
buy
buy,
my
buy
paintings.
some new running shoes or something. All right, it's GeorgeReba.com. Of course, he is George
Yeah,
Reba, the
it's-
longtime Channel 8 broadcaster here with PressBox DFW Live. Can you stick around, right?
Oh, absolutely. If you
All right,
need
let's
me.
do it
If not,
because next up, we're going to do a little pregame meal. It's a big flop for the Big 12.
Okay, pregame meal. And how do we top that? That was a real appetizer. Thank you, George. But we had an interesting weekend in the Big 12 in college football, and I don't know what it was like to. I had to go to to a game at 2:30. I was at the TCU game, but I can imagine just sitting at home and watching the day.
I was in a sports bar.
unfold
People were going crazy.
and watching the different teams' hopes crumble right before our eyes, and it was just craziness. I don't know where it leaves the I don't know where it leaves the Big 12 in the playoff picture, but I would think that it probably crushes their chances.
They're done.
The only team that has a chance is Baylor, an undefeated Baylor team, if they
Fighting
run the
Matt
table,
Mosley's.
and that ain't going to happen.
They're getting no pub, are they?
I still don't. I pick against them every week, and I've lost every week.
Right.
I mean, I guess they're better
They're
than
good.
we think.
They're good.
But are they good?
But think of this though: for them to be able to run the table and make the playoff,
Yes.
they have to win out and beat Oklahoma twice. That's what it's going to take for them to get in. I think a one-loss Oklahoma team would not do it this year, because after Oklahoma's previous stumbles in the playoffs, I think they're going to be lumped in with what looks like a log jam of one-loss
That
teams.
shouldn't factor in. What happened last year should be irrelevant, but you're probably right. It probably does factor into the committee going, we've seen Oklahoma
there's Oklahoma
before.
fatigue.
Yeah,
and
you're absolutely
just like
right.
there was Clemson fatigue, even with Clemson being even with them being undefeated this year. I tell you, there's Alabama fatigue. I can think of one place where there's Alabama fatigue.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
But I think what it does open, and this is, here we are at the Oklahoma Kansas State game that started this stuff.
I thought Oklahoma could win every game by 30 points. They wanted to.
Yeah.
After watching them against
Yeah,
Texas.
and look, they pull a play like this right off the bat. Look at this. I mean, did they really need to go beyond page one? I thought.
Okay, but when they got held to a field goal from right there, I thought that gave Kansas State hope.
Right. And next thing you know, here's Gilbert, the running back for Kansas State. He has the long run, and they score.
Yeah,
They had to get
that's when
back
it
in
was
the
game
game.
on.
This guy played real well the week before against TCU, and he's good.
Kansas State's just a team. There's nothing special about them. I mean, this was a
No.
special day. It's a season maker, but they're not.
But Schuyler's got something for him going, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is.
Yeah, Thompson. This guy has he's turned it into a Bill Snyder type coached team,
Yeah.
and
Kansas State always has a fullback for a quarterback.
right.
That's what they always look like.
That's true. That's exactly true. And Chris Kleiman has done a terrific job. And so, all right, now Oklahoma's got one defeat, and everyone assumes that Iowa State is going to assume the.
All of a sudden, they're in the mix.
Yeah, they have the momentum, and they're going to be geared up to take over lead dog position in the Big 12, and they stumble against Oklahoma State.
Did not see this one coming either. Oklahoma State's such a young team. I just thought Iowa State looked really good last week.
six.
They've gotten really erratic, though, I think.
Yep.
And then,
The whole conferences are erratic. That's what we're
Well,
learning
that's a
from
good point,
visiting
yeah.
this.
well, some people would say balanced.
Some realists would say erratic. Yeah.
Parity?
Right.
You do that.
Right. And then, this was the final interception in that game that kind of sealed Oklahoma State's.
The conference is not big enough to have 3 or 4 good teams.
Interesting. Yeah, you're kind of right.
Right?
Aren't you? Yeah, with
Well,
only 10.
I mean, with 10 teams, I mean,
That's partly true.
Yeah.
The one true champion league
the SEC. I mean, they've got 3, 4 really good teams.
Well, I got 14 teams,
Yeah.
and but most of them are centered in one division.
That should be
but
the Big 12's battle cry. Instead of one true champion, it should be we don't have many teams. Exclamation point.
Yeah, there you
George,
go.
you keep up with college football Saturdays, or are you still?
I do.
immersed in it, or-
Yeah, I watch this kind of just watch it as a fan.
Yeah.
Just kind of watch the good games and taking a nap after a long run.
you
The
go.
game's on, and then, so,
What did y'all think of Texas losing? Not just losing, but losing by 10 to TCU.
TCU's defense played really well.
Oh, especially in the
he really
second
had
half.
that defense cooking. I don't know. Texas fans are going to hate me. When I saw preseason, I saw Heisman Trophy candidate, Ellinger. is he really a Heisman Trophy candidate? Come on, I just had my doubts about that.
That's got to be his word. He regressed in that game.
He-
That looked
he
like
just- he
Sam
just-
Ellinger
he
from
keeps-
2 years ago.
I don't know. I mean, he's got a lot going for himself, but he's
I
still
watched
got
it with a
long way
bunch
to
of
go.
Texas fans at a sports bar, and
Oh, that must have been fun.
when it was 20-10, they were thinking we need to run up the score so we can stay high in the standings in case we win the conference. They were already like mapping it out.
Yeah.
And then
Way ahead of
I
schedule.
reminded them, your secondary is horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
If TCU can throw the ball at all, they will score points, and they did. It was, yeah.
Yeah, the young freshman Max Duggan, who was at this time a year ago was planning on what to do with Thanksgiving break in high school.
Yep.
He played his best game, especially in the second half.
But boy, I mean, Texas has so many. Again, they're not good when they're healthy in the secondary, but when they're banged up like they are, missing 3 starters, a lot of quarterbacks are going to have their best game of the year against Texas this year. We've seen it already, and we're going to continue to see it. They're just not very good.
They are what total defense in the Big 12. TCU's number 1.
Yep.
Oklahoma's number 2, but Texas is 9th
Right.
in total defense. They're ahead of only Kansas. In pass defense,
They gave up 48 points to Kansas the week before.
They're
Who
dead
thought they were going
last.
to come in here and shut down TCU?
nobody's given up more yards in passing than DBU.
Yeah. TBU. Dallas Baptist.
DBU.
But TCU, give them credit. I mean, when they were down 20-10, this was a big game. They brought out the very unstable, by the way, red face masks. Gil,
Well-
what do you think about that?
well-
Were we spitting blood? What is going on with the red?
Well, it's rooted in the fact that the real life horned frog, when confronted, can spit blood through its eye.
Is that true, though?
Yeah, supposedly.
Have you supposedly?
No, you can't find horned frogs.
That's what I'm
anywhere.
saying. What is
I mean, they got they have them at the zoo, I
Halloween,
guess.
everything.
And
Have you
stuff.
ever seen a horned frog? Number one.
In live, no.
Ziggy? I hear Ziggy chiming in.
Yes, I have.
You've seen a real live horned frog?
Yes, when I was
spit blood.
backpacking in West Texas.
And did he spit blood at you?
No, he saw me and scrambled off.
Yeah.
So Ziggy's so scary, he scared away the horned frog,
Well,
who had blood eye at his
Look,
disposal.
the
for
world was
ammunition.
a much better place when this is a get off my lawn remark, but the world was a much better place before Nike got into the uniform business.
And, yeah,
Because they've screwed up more people's uniforms.
TCU was
But-
like, you know what? Let's just be red this week. Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
But TCU, you got to understand, has no glorious golden tradition period in which their uniforms became iconic.
Right.
So the last thing they want to do is dress up in the uniforms of the 70s at TCU.
I was going to say Bob Lilly might disagree with you. Right?
Yeah, go back to what Bob Lilly wore.
but nobody would identify with that. And so when they got into when they started winning, then
What about LaDainian? Can we go back to his throwback?
there you go.
yeah, well, they actually have that. I mean,
Okay.
they've got.
But these were not. These are new. These were not even throwbacks.
They're probably going to wear 5 different uniforms
that's
this
so
year.
unfair.
But these young kids love that.
Oh, they do. You're exactly right.
Absolutely.
That's
Gary
how you
Patterson
recruit.
made
That's how we're going to recruit. is
You're
look at all the
exactly
uniforms.
right. And all the recruits that were in town for the TCU
Yeah.
game
Was that the recruiting weekend this weekend?
Yeah,
Well, that
and they
explains
did, and they
something.
loved it. And
All right, these
Gary
face masks
Patterson
are lit. That's what they say. That's what they say, Reba, to the kids.
As it's funny, as the sun began to set,
Yes.
the
like the lead
uniforms,
to your story.
the uniforms, outlined against
In
the-
Austin, the sun began to set.
as the sun began to set, the uniforms started looking different. There was something that the red started to stand out more. And maybe that was their original intention, but in the daylight,
I'm impressed if it was.
in the daylight, you couldn't read the numbers. You certainly
numbers
couldn't
are
read
hard
the
to read.
names on the back of the jerseys. And I had good binoculars, and I couldn't tell who was.
Now, I did find video footage of them squirting blood if you want to see it.
I do.
Oh, absolutely.
Is this your home video?
Let's
Ziggy?
do it.
No, this is from National Geographic.
Oh, great!
Oh,
Oh, what's for lunch?
that is not.
Oh,
That is doctored video. That is not. legit.
Oh,
There's
that's
no
not.
way.
That looks like National Geographic to me.
Yeah, that's National Geographic. And here's a bird eating
Oh, no.
some berries as a follow-up. As a companion
Good
video.
editing. That's good.
Yeah, good editing. All right, real quick,
it's
for
red
college
berries.
football. SMU wins again.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thursday night, and they didn't play
They're
their
in-
best. But anytime SMU beats Houston on the road, it's a
Their
big win.
fate is in their hands.
Yeah.
Win out, beat Memphis in Memphis
Yep.
this week, beat Navy in Tulane, and
East Carolina. They'll have 3
East
games left.
Carolina, and
They'll play in
they're
the
headed
Cotton
to the
Bowl.
Cotton Bowl.
That's the story of the year in college football if they make it.
Might have to play Oklahoma.
How great would that be? But they play at Memphis next weekend. Memphis is ranked 24th, and that's the last. I mean, I can't believe we're saying this is the last hurdle. They'll be big favored in their last 3 games. This is the biggest game in SMU football history. Can you say that? If they beat it, they're going to the Cotton Bowl. That's huge.
Well, they went to the Cotton Bowl in the 80s, too.
Okay, that was death penalty. This is a whole new
Yeah,
world.
That was
the-
pre-death penalty.
Yeah. All right. One more thing as we talk college football.
I thought the story of the year would be when Houston and SMU get invited back to the Big 12, make them 12.
Do you have a scoop, George? GeorgeAreba.com has a scoop.
No, I wish.
Okay. I do too. All right, we got to watch the play of the Tech game.
Absolutely.
Oh, gosh.
You've seen this, George?
I have seen this. My wife,
Kansas.
I can't watch this often enough.
My wife's
is
a Texas
Not
Tech.
nothing
Oh,
against Tech. I just think
I'm not a
it's-
Tech fan. I got Tech buddies. This
Oh,
is one of the
I
most
heard-
painful ways
I heard for Tech on
to
this.
lose a football game.
My wife's a Texas Tech grad.
Oh, my
She's
God.
not very happy
So
about it.
Kansas lining up for the game-winning field goal. They block it.
They block it, so you would think game over.
Douglas Coleman, who's a really good player, decides inexplicably to
Yeah.
pitch the ball back.
If he had just fallen down,
Anything.
they would have gone to overtime.
They recovered and they kicked the winning field. I mean, somewhere Leon Lett's going, thank God it's just not me anymore.
Who is he pitching to?
I don't know.
I don't think
Why
he
was he
knows.
trying to pitch? He's on his own 5-yard line.
I don't think that was.
He would rather show that the horn frog
Even
spitting
Les-
blood again, or than show that.
Even the Mad Hatter, even Les Miles was dumbfounded.
He
on
should have
that.
been. All right, there's some college football for you on PressBox DFW Live. Next up in Wits End, Cowboys made a trade this week. They wouldn't have had to make this trade unless this guy chose pot over pigskin. That's my Channel 8 tease, George. That would work,
That was
wouldn't it?
good.
Coming up at 10. All right, Wits
I
End
like it.
today,
I like it.
brought to you by a good friend of mine. His name is Attorney Bill Price. He's down in Dallas. He's a criminal defense expert. Went to UTA with him. He actually graduated also from UTA and got his degree at Texas Wesleyan. He's been in practice since 1998. He was the district attorney once upon a time down in Navarro County, but now he's defending the dark side. He's come over to criminal defense. So if you need an attorney for DWI, you charged with assault, you got some drug problems, call my buddy. Call Bill Price, 972-765-6783. He is down in Dallas, 2603 Oak Lawn Avenue in Dallas, Texas. Give him a shout. Bill Price, 972-765-6783. He's one of those guys where you're like, well, I hope I never have to use you. About once a month, I'm like, yeah, I got an attorney that can help you out. So if you need an attorney, it's Bill Price. Before I get to the Cowboy story, something big happened this morning in the Illinois legislature, which sounds, what do you mean? We're at PressBox DFW Live. This might be, some people are saying this is the beginning of the end of the NCAA. So lawmakers there on House Bill 3904, essentially this morning they voted 9-6 to give student athletes a percentage of revenue generated by colleges that uses their name or likeness. Wow. This is way overdue, right?
I guess.
Well, what do you mean you guess?
Well,
so for years and years and years, it's been
I'm such a traditionalist. I don't. You know,
like, let's go back to the SMU in the 80s, the Pony
Yeah,
Express. There's
yeah.
pictures and billboards of Craig James and Eric Dickerson. They're selling jerseys,
Yeah,
and they're making, SMU's making millions, and those kids received, of that anyway, they've received zero.
True. And the whole conference was paying those what 7 teams out of the conference were paying at that time.
Sure, absolutely. I'm not saying they were hurting for sports cars and whatnot, but
Yeah.
what do you think about this? You're kind of a
I mean,
traditionalist
it's-
too, but this is kind of, it's not athletes being paid, but it's getting their fair share
Yeah.
of their likeness.
Well, I mean, why not? I guess it's. I mean, when I went to college, I mean, I was able to work my way and do things. I mean, I had to, otherwise I wouldn't have gone to college. You
Sure.
know? So, and I mean, I guess it's just a natural transition to where we're headed.
I mean, there's tuition, there's room and board. I get that. It's that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars in assets.
I just don't see how you're going to level the playing field. Are we going to have salary caps now for colleges and stuff? Is that
Well,
what we're gonna
the
have?
natural question is, all right, we're going to do it for a really good band member that maybe they have a concert.
Yeah,
Gil, where do you
true,
fall on this?
true.
Giving them their share.
This is just another chapter. It started with the California legislation that said that you could, pay athletes out there. The federal government is going to have to argue this and enact some sort of regulatory legislation, and that's how I think they feel like it will work. And you've heard all the old arguments. You can't pay one sport
That's going to be
without
the
having to
problem.
pay everybody, and that would in effect put some colleges. They would have to start canceling sports, especially women's sports, if they did that. So it's not as cut and dry.
It's complicated, but it's
Right.
a step in the fair direction. But they got a long way to make it work.
A lot of schools, in fact, most schools, if I don't know better, they don't sell jerseys in their bookstore or anything like that with players' names on the back. So like if you want to wear number 1 at Oklahoma or number 2 at
I
Alabama,
bet you Oklahoma sold a number 1 Kyler Murray jersey last year.
sure.
I don't, maybe not in their bookstore, but
I bet it didn't have Kyler Murray on the back.
Oh,
Kyler Murray's name on the back.
I bet it did. Why wouldn't it?
Huh?
course
Because
it did.
that's his likeness.
But before this bill, they could have gotten away with that.
No,
That's
they
what
were
this
they
whole
were
bill's
preempting.
about.
No, I mean I've looked at certainly in my visits back home I looked to see whose jersey was for sale at LSU, and
Right.
Just a number?
just the number, not a name on
LSU's
the
trying to
back.
catch up with it.
Well, and they do that, and I know why they do that. Actually, they do that to protect themselves from lawsuits from students for them using their license
Yeah,
or
we're
likeness.
getting there.
That's exactly it.
Step in the right direction. All right, let's talk some Cowboys. They made a trade this week for defensive end Michael Bennett, who is a knucklehead, by the way. He comes from the Martellus Bennett DNA, so we know he's a knucklehead. But the Cowboys needed a pass rusher
Yeah, because
because
they failed with their number 2 draft pick.
Tristan Hill is nobody even remembers he's even been on the roster. DeMarcus Lawrence has been underwhelming, him and his new contract, right? I mean, he's been okay, had a sack last game, but he's having an underwhelming year.
That always seems to happen when people get new contracts.
Yeah, more often than not. And then they lost Tyrone Crawford. Obviously, he's on injured reserve with surgery. But it reminded me, I remember writing a story on PressBox DFW at the start of the year saying this might be Doomsday 3 with this great deep pass rush. Remember this story? I like to forget it, but it's because we forgot about this guy. Look at what a freak that this player. Remember David Irving?
This guy, he was great when he was healthy and when he was out on the field.
I mean, he's 6'7",
Had the wingspan,
300 pounds.
Wingspan, the longest wingspan in the league at
Longest
74
wing.
and a half.
I mean, look at him dominate. This was just 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He could dominate football games in spurts. Now, again, is he one of the all-time knuckleheads and an admitted pothead? Yes. But that's exactly what the Cowboys need. He just throws people around. He went to Iowa State.
Where he was caught holding the stop sign.
Yes, he was. Yeah, he was. Told you he was a knucklehead. Cowboys got him off the Chiefs practice squad. He became NFC Defensive Player of the Year. Of the week, when he had 3 fumbles, a sack, and a deflected pass in 9 snaps against the Packers. And the Cowboys were like, who is this guy? We got to pay him. Long story, really long. David Irving decided, I'd rather smoke pot than play football. And I caught up with him recently, and Jiggy just showed the link to the story. He's not at all what I expected. I expected like Spicoli or Cheech and Chong. Like, dude, I just want to smoke pot. He's a really deep thinker that's thought this through, and he says, look what football's doing to people with CTE and with concussions. I don't want that. What I want to do is smoke pot because it's medicinal. It's not recreational. It gives cancer patients, it alleviates their pain. It helps prolong the lives of animals who have terminal illness. And his quote was, the real reason I'm not in the NFL is I'd rather be out here saving lives. You don't hear that from Spicoli. I was really kind of impressed with him. I wouldn't make that decision, but that's the decision he's made. And now he's developing cannabis-based products like rolling papers and whatnot. And that's his new life. He's out in San Jacinto, California.
I wish him luck. I mean, it's California.
It's a hard decision to make, though, isn't it? I mean, to walk away from football?
Yeah, no, I would think that's really tough.
He says he's had 25 concussions in football, and he's 26 years old. He said that's enough. He goes, I've got my mental faculties. I want to have a good life. I want to help other people. I'm not going to have CTE. And
So he's given up a multi-million-dollar
Yeah.
career for a chance to be an entrepreneur.
yeah, basically, you're right.
Well, the regulations in California, he can,
So there you go.
It's
There's David Irving. Not the knucklehead you would think. Read the story, and when you watch the Cowboys, Michael Bennett, when Michael Bennett screws up and does something stupid, say we could have had David Irving. All right, next up, time to round the bases. Let's head for home. All right, it is the walk-off. Ziggy, what have we got on Facebook today? Anything?
We have Ryan O'Neill.
Blood spitting video.
We have Ryan O'Neill chiming in. He's watching in Dorchester, Massachusetts, so
All
he
right,
made it
What's
safe.
up? I think Ryan would like me to put this Halloween mask back on, so I'll do that.
I think probably, yeah.
Here we go.
Yo, what's scarier, me in this mask or the horned frog spitting blood?
You.
All right, watch us right here every Tuesday, PressBox DFW Live. Read us every day at PressBoxDFW.com. George Reba, thanks for stopping by.
Hey, I
It's good
appreciate it.
tales.
Thanks for
We'd
having
love to
me.
do this. We'll have you over again one of these days, Phil,
appreciate
if you'll make it. For George Reba, for Gil Leberton, for Ziggy and his spitting blood, I'm Richie Witt. We'll see you guys in the PressBox DFW.